All right, I think we'll get going. Joe's coming, he'll come. I'd like to call this Tuesday, June 7th, 2016, meeting of the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board to order. If I could get approval of the agenda.
I motion to approve it. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Andy?
one correction, if you might,
Sure.
please. I had mentioned sand washing off of CO2, not onto CO2.
Okay, if you could just tell me where, because I brought my copy with me.
I don't have the copy, I just read it on the computer. It's one of the first comments that I might have made. Sorry, I don't have the paragraph.
Okay. Say it again, and I'll just write down below.
One of my concerns was the amount of sand eroding off of CO2 and smothering eelgrass beds. You had written that I was concerned about sand washing up on the beach and off of it. Thank you.
Okay.
Top of the second page, I think.
Okay. Okay, any other changes? All right, all those in favor?
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay, wait a minute, I'll take a motion for the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Chairman's report. I think we've got as many people together as we're going to get. So I'd like to do election of officers. And basically the way this works is you nominate somebody for chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. Then we take a vote, and that's how that goes. So I will now accept nominations for chairman.
I'll nominate Peter Brace. My motion to.
I second the nomination.
I accept that. Are there any other nominations for chairman? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Vice chairman. I'd like to, if he'll accept it, nominate Andy Lowell as vice chairman.
I'll accept.
I'll second.
Discussion. Is there anyone else who wants to nominate anyone else? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And secretary.
Mr. Chairman,
Andy.
I nominate Fritz for secretary if he's willing. Seems clerical and maybe Ken would like a year off.
I'll second the motion.
How do you feel about that, Fritz?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just know that the minutes don't. You notice that my minutes are exhaustive, and that's because I was a reporter, and it's just how I do them. And Ken's are the other extreme, and they could be somewhere in the middle. So,
Okay.
I'm not sure about extreme
well, minimalist.
towards the other
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. It's basically a sense of the meeting. So, okay. Did somebody second?
I said yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have our slate.
Can I ask a
Who's
question?
taking the minutes of
What?
this meeting?
Can you ask what?
Is that effective immediately?
Yes. Well, I mean, can you?
Yeah. Well,
Let's compare at the end and we can revote.
Yeah.
okay.
All right.
Comes Joe.
Sorry, Joe. We did the vote for the election of officers.
You didn't get anything.
That's okay too.
Okay.
Sorry,
we're
I'm
glad
late.
you're here.
Sorry I'm late.
It's all right. I guess I want to say, in case you didn't know, we are being streamed live right now. And so behave appropriately. And another thing that you'll eventually learn in the open meeting law seminar that we'll all have to take again this year is that our phones and tablets, we're not allowed to send emails or look at internet or send texts while we're having the meeting, so just be aware of that. Okay. And if you can, speak into the mic. Okay, proposed revisions to slip and mooring regulations update. As the members on the board who were here prior to the election know, we did create recommendations that have yet to go to the selectmen. Kind of waiting to get some stuff out of the way before we did that. But I wanted to let the board know that I'm going to be preparing a letter asking for a public hearing for those revisions. Just want to let you know that I'll be doing that. I don't know when that'll happen. I mean, I don't know when the public hearing will happen. I think I may have missed the 3-week deadline, 3-week period for them to do a advertising for this month, so maybe it'll be in July. But I just want to let you know that the wheels are in motion with that. Just we had other stuff in front of us. Okay. And so, Marine Department report. Sheila?
Okay, well, we're pretty much just doing summer preps. All the buoys are already in, as you know. The no anchors are in, and we got those in early, which helped out with for mooring handlers to not crowd onto Hudson Shoal. We haven't had any issues, and we did not have any issues so far with Memorial Day weekend. There was no nobody approaching on the area. The town is completely open right now. Pump outs are running. We have pump out boat running for Memorial Day weekend. We have the cars that we received from the Shellfish Association about the harbor and soaps and pump outs and all that stuff to keep the harbor clean. Those have been very well received. We're giving them out every pump out we do. And so far, we have them in our office. We give them to people that are just checking in. We have a lot of people stop in the office when they're checking in to the anchorage and all that. So we went through about 100 so far, which is really good. Nantucket Moorings is also giving them out, and so is the Nantucket Bull Basin, and so is Grand Point Marine has them, as does Mattocket. The beaches are being prepped. Today we put the stands out. Tomorrow we do coffin lockers, and then we do the beach access ramps later on in the week. We have put a new handicap accessible ramp in at Children's Beach to get people from the parking lot up into the beach. That's been put in, and the neighbors are really happy about that. We're continuing to work on the mooring field grading project. We are to the new mooring holders. We are encouraging them to use more anchors with the eco roads.
What'd you call the anchors?
More anchors, those are the pyramid anchors.
Okay.
Because they don't have shanks that stick up. And the guy that makes Baltimore, I worked with him, he's gonna guarantee those eco roads, those hazlet moorings, which takes the chain out of the equation for the chain sweep. As long as they're removed every year, which is what we want anyways. So, I've been talking to the new people that were issued warrants for this year to encourage them to go that way. And have information at the office if anybody's interested on that.
Yeah.
Pretty much that's it. We're just doing, we have one boat out in Nantucket for response. We have one boat in town for response, soon to be 2. And the pump boat is.
I noticed that you put extra markers out for Pulpus Harbor, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed that. It
But
was-
it's so skinny in there that
right.
you need a buoy like every foot just to get you through it.
And still, I walk out there a lot. I still see people going as fast as they can right through there. I'm just waiting for someone to just, you know. Does anyone on the board have any questions for Sheila?
If I may quickly.
Sure, Andy.
Chairman, Sheila, down in front of where the High Line comes in, where the launch is dock, there's always some just awful looking slime that builds up in the corner there. Is the pump out boat capable of cleaning that up occasionally? Or is that not something that's
Well,
made
it
for?
would just, it's gonna suck the water that it sucks, and I can't target that.
Can't
You
skim
know,
off the top?
Well, try it, but the pump out, full usually go into the tank, and the fittings are made so it just sucks it from the tank out. I don't know what's skimming off the top with it. We don't really have a fitting on that hose to do that. I mean, I'll certainly try, or you know what I'll do is I'll talk to Christina, she has them on a cart. She has the same exact pumps that we do in the boat on a cart, and we'll take the cart over there and see.
It's just a recent idea. I go down for a pickup and a drop off weekly, and I stand there and wait for the boat. It's unsightly, and
Yeah, that's
looks-
just everything just coming down, because whenever it comes out of the east, it just goes up. We spend most of the winter over there pulling debris and stuff out. I'll definitely ask Christina to give that a shot.
just an idea. Thanks.
Okay. Natural Resources Report.
Sure. So we've, for our work in the harbor, we've begun our normal water segment program this season. So our testing with S-Mass for nutrient loading within the harbor, that has started. Most of this year added in anticipation of deploying sondes, which are continuous to take water quality information every 15 minutes from parameters like dissolved oxygen, temperature, pH, conductivity, chlorophyll. We don't do nutrients for saltwater yet, but at some point, thanks to some grants from the Shellfish Association and Great Harbor Yacht Club and the Land Council, to bridge the gap to get into the early season so we can get those deployed and get that squared away. We deployed some they call hobo loggers that log dissolved oxygen and temperature, so we can get kind of an early season snapshot of what's going on with those two parameters until the more sophisticated units can get in. They can be deployed. So we're kind of in the midst of that with water quality. The projects, the hatchery renovation is almost done for construction. We've started some of the kind of the interior finished pieces, and they're finishing up the outside. And that's slated to be done pretty close to on time, right around the start of July. And then reassembly, I guess, of the hatcheries, I guess the best way to put that, will start hopefully, it's already kind of started, but hopefully in earnest this week and into next week. Hopefully we have some trial runs this year, middle, late summer, to try to get things there. One of the time restricted things on that before we can really get kind of full deployment on that, because we obviously have to get some of our food source, so have to get our algae ramped up and growing and get that in position before we can really hold shellfish, condition them and spawn. So that takes some time to ramp up algae production, so it'll take some time. So we're hoping by the middle of the summer we'll get a couple runs in just to put the hatchery to the basis and get ready for full production for next year. And when that project really get close, hopefully in another couple of months we'll be able to bring people through and show the finished product to everyone. So we're kind of excited to get that in and done. With that as well, we're kind of getting ready to start our permitting phase on the oyster reef reconstruction that we've been working towards with our shell recycling program, and starting to final approval, we're waiting for Dr. Costello, who did our ingress survey last year, and kind of the final approval for our follow-up this year for protocol to be doing our ingress surveys later this summer. Once there's more growth, we can see what's there and assess our immediate populations, pre-ingress populations, to see what's going on at the bottom of the market. That being said, too, I don't want to forget, for those who are interested, tomorrow night's board selected meeting is a workshop meeting, so it's not a, it's not a necessarily public friendly because they are just there to listen to things. But tomorrow's focus is on water quality, especially as it relates to the ongoing efforts of the town for septic and sewer management, fertilizer management, stormwater management, and kind of leading up towards the potential special town meeting for the Madigan Sewer Project and other ongoing initiatives that the town has to help promote water quality and improve aquatic habitats. Focus primarily on the Nantucket Harbor watershed, but obviously with special town meeting, we're moving a little bit more towards the active attack with the Madigan Harbor and all the watersheds as well. So I definitely check that out. People are interested. I know that meeting will also stream as well, but it's a good chance to get information related directly towards water quality and things that the Board of Health doing or other county agencies that
All right, thanks. Anyone on the board? Questions for Jeff?
Jim?
Can you guys all speak into your mics when you talk because we're being streamed live? Someone,
Sure. I was just wondering, as part of your sampling, do you do water clarity, and are your things available online or somewhere else to see?
Yes,
What
all
the
of
results?
our data is online. Some of it's a little trickier. We do water quality. We use an apparatus called the SECI disc. It's essentially a visual assessment by depth. It's kind of the standard for doing it. You measure when the disc appears and disappears in the water column with the depth. You can use that to determine kind of the humidity in the water. So we do look at those parameters. That's something that we also send in to SMS as part of our sampling regime with them for them to prepare for the rest of the data. So it's something we can look at.
Thanks.
anyone else? No? Okay. Public comment on Marine and/or Natural Resources Department report. Mr. Drake.
Mr. Chairman, Dan Drake, I didn't expect to be at this meeting tonight, but I'm here. So I just want to follow up on what the harbor master said about the little brochure that the Shellfish Association put together. I was going to send you a copy, but I haven't actually. The printed version is much better than the print. But I commend it to you if you're down by the harbor master's office, pick up one there. And I have more than I bargained for. I've got 425 so if anybody can think of places to distribute them, please, that'd be great. I'd like to.
Is there, can you just tell me what it's called so I know from,
We're calling it Boater's Guide, but you won't find that anywhere on it.
okay.
It's a 9x6 heavy stock coated stock. Decided. Do's and don'ts. Do's and don'ts.
How do you, all the boatyards and yacht clubs and all that stuff?
I've taken, Great Harbor has them, the Nantucket Yacht Club has them, as the harbor master mentioned, Grand Point Marine, Boat Race, Madigan Marine, and Terra Pier. I'm not taking them to the landlocked boatyards, but I plan to.
Yeah, it's too bad there's no way to distribute them at, like, I don't know, Jackson Point, Pulpus Harbor.
I think word will get around, but they keep it in a really place.
We can certainly, well, I can make the effort to get it up on the social media. I'm sorry, you guys are probably already doing that, right?
We haven't really, we don't have a social media program.
Okay, well, I'm fully into that, so.
I'll send you the PDF.
Okay,
It's two separate pieces of both sides.
okay. Sheila?
I was just gonna ask about the boatyards and stuff too. Is
But can they be put into the welcome packages that the people at the boat basin get?
Yeah.
They are. Okay. So that seems like the most effective way.
And Nantucket Moorings is doing that as well.
Okay.
So those are the two biggest ones. The random ones are hopefully will make the town bigger or something.
And you might even, I mean, if you have an excess of them, you might walk around the town pier parking lot and look at the vehicles that, I don't know, you might put them on windshields. I don't know. Okay. That's littering, yeah, all right. Andy?
I'd like to suggest Steamship Authority, High Line, and Airport. It's something for people to look at, read. Who knows, you know, if they're boaters, somebody's bringing their boat over on the boat, or...
Airport charges those things.
Okay.
Did you already say Brand Point Marine?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds like it's all covered. Okay, anyone else? No? Okay. We'll go right into old business, the 4-bushel limit proposal. I did, just so everyone knows, I made a call to Carl Sherlin, since this was his idea, to let him know that we would be discussing it and hopefully voting on, you know, our recommendation. And for those who don't know what this is, commercial scalper Carl Sherlin proposed a temporary taking of 4 bushels per commercial shellfish license for November 2016 to see how that would make the season stretch out over the rest of the 5-month season. At our last meeting, or not the last meeting, we did a workshop, but the previous meeting, we decided to pursue a possible survey of the scallopers to see what they thought of this in an effort to maybe get the word out further. But in talking with our staff, namely Jeff Carlson, and then amongst the board members, and this is how I feel, and we're hopefully going to vote on it, and we'll take public comment. My feeling is that we would be better served by not doing it this year because all the people who bought licenses and aren't on Carl's team aren't expecting this, and I think it's better if we did it next year, if we did it at all, so that at least people knew about it, had a chance to digest it, and that we also get into the annual mailing from the Natural Resources Department with some sort of survey question to see what gauge people's thoughts. So that's what I think about that. And also the survey, I think that if we do a survey on every big issue, then every big issue's proponents are going to want us to do a survey, and then there'll always be people who say they didn't get the survey and will complain that we didn't reach out to them. So I say we don't do it. But I want to hear what all you guys think, and then we'll take questions from the public or comments. So go ahead. Who wants to go first?
If I may, I guess, Mr. Chairman. We've gone over this quite a bit, I feel, and I agree with you as far as people have bought their licenses already with expectations of a $5 limit, and we really need some more information, I feel, from more of the fishermen.
Okay.
Just a point. So is your proposal that we would just taking general comments, or actually voting on a postponement of doing anything?
No, my proposal is that we vote on how we're going to recommend, what our support would be, or if we're going to support this at all.
Are you a motion for it?
What?
Are you making a
No, I'm asking the board members
Okay.
to say what they think, and
Well,
then
I think
want.
we should start off with a,
Oh, wait. Fritz was.
Okay. No, I was just clarifying that. So,
I'm just asking for everyone's thoughts, and then I want to hear what the members of the public have to say, and then I want us to take a vote on,
Okay.
are we for this, or do we want to put it off and hopefully try and get it in the mailing with the Natural Resources Department, and because we're just recommending, that's hopefully goes and carries some weight up at the Board of Selectmen, but Carl can go to the Board of Selectmen and try for this on his own. So,
Okay.
Ken?
No, I was going to agree with you. I think we should just bring it to a vote to see what the feeling is. Might just pass and get going before the selectmen to get it moving.
Okay. Who else? Bill?
Well, I agree with you that not everybody's going to be happy with it, but I think it's a good idea. First of all, Carl's not dumb. He's really smart. He's done very well financially, and certainly is very wise in what he does. But my impression is that it definitely would lengthen the season out a little bit. It would be good. Usually November is where you see the other towns open earlier in early mid-October, and you see this big price, and then Nantucket opens and the price drops for those selling here locally. And usually around Thanksgiving, everybody eats turkey, and so that's when they really get hit. The price drops again, and then November, December is a month when there's big seafood month. So you have a lot of sales go up, and so I think it would be probably a price support, because it would cut back on how much is going out there. Maybe we could see a little higher price and something closer to what the other towns are getting in the Cape for our scallops. I think it'd definitely be lengthen out the season, but I know not everybody's going to agree with it, and that we're all fishermen, and what's typical of fishermen, you're gonna have some guys agree and some guys not.
I wanted to add one more thing, and that was that if it is approved, the selectmen do go for it, but then we have a bad season, January, February, and March, and guys lose a lot of days, and the scallops that they wanted to get that they ignored in November, you may not be able to get them anyway. Ken?
I'm a little hesitant to too much. We did vote to do for the survey and get some further input, so I'm hesitant to do something different than that, but we can proceed, I think, technically. But it seems to me that the majority of the people that were here at the meeting where we did have a fair amount of public input for this board, were opposed to it for a number of reasons.
Yep.
And I personally was not at all convinced that it's a good idea. And I don't know if we have to rehash all the reasons why, but so if we're going to vote on it, I'd be disinclined. If we want to do the survey and look at it again for next year, get some more input, we can revisit it. There's no reason we can't come back to it, but I would not be in favor of doing it for this year.
Okay. Joe?
As far as I'm concerned, in terms of being fair to everyone, I think the survey is important. Number two, I think that we should think about giving people the opportunity to wait a year if they've already bought their licenses to do it, so postpone it for a year. And then I think as far as we're concerned, we should just postpone our decision till we have a survey, if we're going to do one.
Okay.
Just a matter of fairness.
Right. And what do you think about the idea of having that survey question be in the mailing from the Natural Resources Department?
That makes sense to me.
Okay, so any type of survey.
Yeah, I
All
would
right.
just like to get more people's opinion. I mean, there was definitely a contingent against this at the meeting,
Right.
but there weren't many people here for it except for Carl. So I just think it would seems fairer to do it that way.
Okay.
If the survey's not a difficult.
It's just a question on a form that gets sent out in a mailing. So,
I would
among
also
other questions.
I would think that when people go to buy their licenses, would be a good time to vote. I mean, it's right there. You're going to pick up your license,
Yeah.
vote for it, make a decision, and that eliminates the mailing. At least, well, I guess it wouldn't. There might be people who decide not to fish one year, but in terms of the people who are actively fishing, who are getting their licenses, that would be the easiest way to do it.
buy your license, vote.
Okay.
Peter, can I-
Fritz? Yep.
Yeah. Personally, I think my thinking's along the lines that Ken is thinking. I think we heard a lot of good arguments for and against at the meeting that we had. There weren't a tremendous number of people, but I think the arguments that we heard on both sides were probably fairly representative and well spoken on both sides. What I heard was that there's no environmental impact one way or the other, based on the questions that were asked, where we are in terms of the price. We had somebody at that meeting who seemed to be of the opinion that it wouldn't have an effect. I really don't know. It seems, from my point of view, if you want to postpone it, that's fine. Do something next year. My basic opinion so far, from what I've heard, is that it seems that there are people pro and people for and against. It's not an environmental issue, so I would have a tendency probably to not be inclined to move forward with it. But that's my personal opinion.
Okay. I'll take comments from the public, comments and questions. Kona.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, how long do you think would allegedly prolong the season?
I think that's Carl's. I mean, it depends. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a commercial fisherman. I don't know. We're going on the information that we get. So Carl will probably be the person to answer that question.
If you're allowed 4 boxes a day, that's losing a box a day for 22 days. That's 22 boxes. That's 4.5 days. Is that really?
I don't know. What do you think? Is it really worth it? I mean,
I'm going to say no.
okay.
Right.
Big time.
Why isn't it worth it?
Would you want to make more money in less amount of time or more money in a longer period of time? You're basically going to make the same amount of money. You're going to catch what you're going to catch. You're going to call it quits when you call it quits. So if you get 2,000 pounds in 65 days as opposed to 75 days, that's 10 days that you're out there on the water, burning fuel, equipment, basically going for harbor cruise for 10 days.
Okay. Thanks. Anyone else? Mr. Drake?
Mr. Chairman, this has been discussed at 2 meetings of the Shellfish Association. We have not taken a position on it, primarily because Mr. Sherlin asked us not to. He said he wasn't asking us to. I think if a vote had been taken, the general sentiment was in favor of the proposal, just because there is a benefit to extending the season for some of the fishermen who tend to fish longer than others, or try to make it through the whole season, just because it's in their DNA. I think it's a tough question because there are good arguments on both sides. I know you're not looking really at the economic aspects of it, but clearly, from one of the board members talked to a couple of restaurateurs in New York who said, that for them the attraction is from November 1st to mid-December through Christmas or whatever.
Right, right.
Although clearly when they were selling for $50 a pound in New York in March, February or March, there was still a pretty good demand for it. So, it cuts both ways. And if it's a bad season, do you want them all gone at the beginning, or do you want to try and spread it out? These are the questions. You're being asked to be a little bit of Solomon here. And I don't envy the decision, but I think it's important one.
Well, the thing that
The option should at least be given strong consideration.
the thing that I stick on is put all the other stuff aside. The thing that I stick on is that you have your board and what you guys feel, and then what Carl feels in his group, and I'm sure that there's overlap. But then there's everybody else who doesn't even know what's going on. That's
a different question.
Yeah.
Whether you postpone it or
Right.
it's a different question than whether
So, but are you guys saying you'd like it to happen this year, or you just like it to happen to see what happens?
I think we'd like to see it happen, to see what happens.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Andy?
We're not taking a vote, so I have to take that.
Okay. So that was friendly advice. Andy?
if I may, through you to Jeff, Jeff, you were willing to orchestrate a survey during a time when you're already sending something out to the scholopers? Was that my understanding?
Absolutely, I think there's some other questions that our department would like to ask as well.
Okay.
I mean, if it goes that way, if the question could be specific,
I think if we produced a survey, I think our intention would be to develop that survey probably in the early fall.
Yeah.
Get it in front of you guys to just review a little bit, review the language at some degree, and then we send out our renewal mailing to include it in there, and measure what kind of response that we get. I think would be essentially, because I know there's things that we like to ask for, commissioner's opinion on, what they're seeing as far as bond conditions and other things that any chance we can get information from us.
With that said, Mr. Chairman.
go ahead, Andy.
If I may make a motion to, at this point in time, not support the 4-bushel limit for the 2016-17 season, with a condition that we revisit the proposal after receiving some more information, specifically the survey that Jeff's willing to orchestrate.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Can we discuss it?
Discussion always follows. So, discussion.
Was there a second?
Yes.
Yes.
second.
Okay.
So, discussion. Ken, do you have something to say?
Yeah, well, we already know, I thought you proposed tonight that we take a vote on it, fairly soon.
That's
And,
what he's proposing.
Well, that survey's gonna take until, what did you say, the fall?
We sent out that mailing in December, late December.
No, so it's kind of contradicting both. So if we take a vote today, I thought we were gonna take a vote today.
Well, we would be taking a vote today, but Mr. Lowell's proposed that we wait to get more information, that we not support Mr. Sherlin's effort to do it in November this year, and then we get the information, hopefully the scholopers respond, and we revisit for the 2017-2018 season and make a decision, probably in January or February.
I guess it's the way it's worded, it's more towards a result, the survey rather than to approve or disapprove Paul's desire there. So,
Well,
I just want to make that clear
okay.
before we make the vote.
Okay. Ken?
I just
Gullickson?
wanna- We should sit on the other side.
Yeah, he's
Picking
seriously.
it. Question really, I guess for Jeff, or I'm not sure. But if the survey doesn't go out until late December, when are the licenses picked up? That was one of the issues, is what people's expectations were. And the licenses, I forget,
Right.
but it's fairly early that you have to pick up your license and pay for it.
And most of them already bought.
So if the thing doesn't
Oh,
go out.
wait, Jeff, when are people buying the licenses, the bulk of the licenses being
All
bought?
the licenses are sold between January 1st and March 31st.
So if the survey went out in December, and let's say they came back by mid-January,
Yeah.
we had a meeting the end of January or February, we voted immediately, contrary to usual practice, and then went to the selectmen. If we got it to them by the end of January, the earliest it could be heard would be the end of February
Right.
for a public hearing, and so I'm not sure that would work in terms of the notification, and most people would already have their license, so it wouldn't eliminate that issue.
Well, I mean, the mailings that Jeff is talking about is they're going, I mean, what you're mailing out is noticing, saying, hey, here's, it's a notice saying, are you going to buy a license for the next year, right? And other materials.
Correct, it's a renewal letter to
Oh.
expedite the process for licensing for current valid license holders.
And so they'll be getting that. In that would be the survey, so they would be noticed that this is a potential idea, a thing that could happen. So then they send in the filled out survey, and supposedly their license renewal. Then we get the information back, and at least they are notified by the survey that we're thinking about doing this, that it's a possibility, as opposed to us doing it now. I mean, us recommending. This is all predicated on the Board of Selectmen agreeing that this is a thing that should be done. The room could fill up with scallopers who don't want it, and I mean, it's.
Point being that they wouldn't know. They may know the possibility, but they wouldn't know whether it was going to happen or not.
Right.
Would it require a separate mailing, or is there some way to get the survey done prior to that, so we could have a recommendation in place before the licenses were purchased?
I just think it makes sense to do it. Well, I do personally think makes sense to go out with what they're doing. That's just my thoughts. Is there, Andy?
Well, I thought we had decided that. Jeff helped us decide that it was more economical and time sensitive on his part to put it out with a mailing that is normally sent out anyway. I would have to imagine that most of the licenses are bought near into March, and word is kind of out there about this, and certainly if somebody comes in early for a license, it could be mentioned that this is on the table. But at this point, to clarify for Mr. Kuntz, the beginning of my motion is to not support the 4-bushel limit.
Yes.
At this time.
Correct.
At this time.
Leaving a condition open that we can revisit it later. I felt that was just the cleanest way to deal with this at this point. We're not going to come up with that's as final as a decision as we can make.
And that's just to recommend. That's just to recommend. We're not saying it can't happen. We're just recommending to the Board of Selectmen, this is what we think you should do. And Carl could go to the Board of Selectmen and argue his case, and the Selectmen could very easily decide against what we say. So we're not the board that makes the decision. We're just the board that recommends for what someone wants to do or doesn't want to do. So it doesn't mean it's dead when we make the vote.
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
Andy.
And for the sake of the public that did come in here, as to reiterate what Mr. Gullickson said, the majority of the public that was here was against it. So at this point, I feel it's in our best interest to support the majority of people who came here to voice their opinion. Thank you.
Okay. Is there more discussion? No more discussion. I'll take a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Lowell's motion? Aye. All those opposed? You opposed or for it?
All opposed, I think, Bill's also opposed.
Okay.
Okay, did you vote?
Yeah, I was against it.
Against.
Okay. Your motion carries. And we will revisit after we'll make sure that we develop what we want to ask for the question so that Jeff gets that on the survey, and he'll get the language back to us, and we'll follow that process. Okay. The summer meeting schedule. How do you guys feel about meeting once a month, or just keeping at once a month with the option to have a meeting if we need to, or a workshop meeting? What do you guys think?
I'll agree with the 1 month.
So that would
We
be,
can cover a lot in one meeting, but I don't think it's going to go, that much stuff's going to be building up.
it'd be July, the first meeting in July and the first meeting in August, and then we'd resume our regular schedule starting in September.
I personally don't see any reason to cut the schedule short just because of the summer, but I'm here. I mean, that's just my view. If we've got things to do, we ought to do them.
Okay. I'm of a mind that, the workshop worked great last time, and then we can get stuff done without the public here, or without them asking us questions. Bill?
My position is you can do whatever you want. If I'm able to come, I'll come. If I can't, I can't.
Okay. Well, I'll take a motion from, who wants to make a motion? What do you guys want to do?
Chairman, if I may.
Andy?
Well, Mr. McClure reminds me of how I felt last year at this time. And let's get some work done. Let's, stick to our scheduled meetings. But after it being voted in 2 months, we had 1 meeting per month. I don't think a whole lot was missed out on because of that. I think you'll find that if that's the way it's been done historically, am I correct?
Yeah. But historically, meaning that the board decides whether it wants to meet or not. I mean, we could just say 1 meeting, but then decide, at that 1 meeting that we're going to need to meet again. So.
Any more opinion from the rest of the board?
Ken Gullickson?
We didn't get a lot done last summer. I don't know that we have a lot on our to-do list that needs to be done. I would be in favor of doing once a month as an anticipated schedule with the option of calling other meetings on an as-needed basis. If the need arises, if there's something that comes up or something we want to address or schedule a workshop, or if we can do that. I'm not sure if we can do that with the room. Can we keep that option open?
Keep it open, and we'll certainly allow other boards who may need the room to know that we aren't going to use it. And I mean you, Dan. Something's really funny up there. This part of the meeting is really funny? Okay. Oh, well, that, it'd be different in the summertime. If we didn't have a meeting, then the room would be open. Okay, so do you want that to be a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do we have a second on Mr. Gullickson's motion?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm staying.
Okay. All right. As some of you know, we had our what? I'm sorry. All those opposed? Okay. At our last meeting on the 17th, we had a goals session for 2016, 2017 for this board, and I wanted to know, I gave you guys each a cheat sheet on the ideas that we came up with, and I want to know how you guys want to proceed in prioritizing these. Do you want to have another workshop meeting this month and sort through these and then get going on one of them or two of them? What do you guys think?
Well, I think we should discuss a couple right now. There are priorities. Andy came up with 2 wonderful suggestions. One, of course, is very important. It's a life and death situation with the waiters, of working towards notifying, putting up signs, something to notify people how dangerous that waiters are, especially out there in Nantucket, as you pointed out there. And then the other one that's kind of pressing also is they're talking about the dredging of the harbor out in Pulpus. We might as well get that in the works right away, because when they go out to do Pulpus, we're not just going to be able to call them up and tell them to go out and do some other work out there.
Well, I guess I'm talking about, trying to decide which ones are the high priority ones, which ones are not to just dive right in and pick them, but to, set up an order that we're going to follow and then get to work on them. Because we'll be all over the place if we just start picking them off one at a time. Guys are quiet. What do you want to do?
To me, our highest priority should be to try to move forward the shellfish management plan in whatever way we can. That's something that, and having said that, I know because I've had people come to me and speak to me about what's happening with it. Is it ever going to be passed? I know that that's not really entirely in our hands, but it seems to me that we ought to be trying to facilitate whatever we need to do to move that forward, and I'm open to whatever that means. I know there are a number of recommendations in that report that are already ongoing. I know one of the issues that I had raised was alternative mooring systems. I wasn't aware that the town's already talking about that, so perhaps that's not something we need to prioritize and deal with, if that's a priority and something that the town's already working on. But it seems to me that whatever we need to do to move forward to help facilitate seeing the shellfish management plan implemented, I think is a worthy goal.
Okay. Do we have, Jeff, do you know if do we have any people that have turned in any? No. Okay. Well, we need a committee to do that. We can help out. We can appoint somebody to join the committee, but then there has to be the 4 or 5 other people that are going to do it. So, no.
So just a point of question, is that in the hands of the Board of Selectmen? I mean, is that where it stands now?
Well, I mean, if they get, let's say they got 8 applicants, and it's a 5-member board, and then when the appointments for committees that people are appointed to by the selectmen come around at the end of June,
Yeah.
then the selectmen will be appointing, they'll add that committee to their appointment duties.
Perhaps our action item could be simply to take some action by vote or otherwise to emphasize to the Board of Selectmen how important we feel it is that that plan move forward and that they do everything that they can as expeditiously as they can to get that committee formed.
Okay, so you're suggesting
I'm groping because I really don't know what
Okay.
it is that we can really do, but it seems like it's just languishing. It's been languishing for a couple of years, and I'm not quite sure
Right.
why.
Okay. Jeff, do you know if they put an ad in the paper? Was that what they did?
The regular committee postings.
Yeah.
It's not a little bit down here for
Okay.
How many people do they get to respond?
right now.
No.
Not aware of any.
Well, my one letter got 3 new members on this board, so I could write a letter and put it in the Inquirer Mirror and see what that did. If you guys are amenable to that, as a place to start. Do you know what the deadline is, Jeff?
It's already passed, but for committees that are vacant, I'm sure I can speak with everybody about figuring out either way to get it onto a separate schedule or figure out something.
Okay, because I don't want to do this letter unless they have someplace to land. So,
I'll sort that out.
okay. Ken?
Should we also vote for a representative from this board to be appointed to that committee?
Yeah. Yep.
So at least there'd be one.
Absolutely. Is there anyone who's interested, or is there anyone who'd like to nominate somebody to do that? You're interested? You're interested? Well,
I support Fritz since he's been working on it already.
okay. You take that as a nomination? Okay, Fritz, you accept?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Andy.
if I may, I'm concerned if nobody's stepping up to the plate for this, then maybe we need to backtrack, and maybe this is something we can do as a board ourselves. Try to move forward with this, as Fritz is suggesting. I thought I looked through that ad for committee vacancies, and I did not notice it in the regular ad. Mr. Carlson says it wasn't there. Maybe I missed it, but if nobody's stepping forward, then nothing's going to happen. So maybe if we can appoint this entire board to be that committee also, and gives us something to do.
Well, it gives us a lot to do. I mean, he says there's 40% they've already done, so that's a lot on our shoulders, for what we already, in addition to what we're doing. So if we didn't want to meet in the summertime, that puts us meeting in the summertime. Just so you know. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to. Jeff, what do you think about that?
Not sure that we can just arbitrarily appoint
Right.
the entire board to that committee without board.
Well, not a point, but just make a recommendation that, yeah.
I mean, personally, I think it's always nice to get multiple inputs on that, and I think just thinking about some of the people and issues that come up, it's always nice to get that diversity of people that you need to get
Right.
a well-rounded view. I mean, I think pounding the pavement a little bit to find some people that have a different stake in the harbor and how it's managed, primarily with Shellfish, I think would be good, and I think there are people that are there. I just think they need to know that the opportunity is in front of them. It's something that obviously, our office is very interested in participating in. I'm sure Sheila's office has some, want to participate for discussions about, things like moorings and how things impact, navigation and things that are there that it's involved. I mean, it's a very detailed plan, and I think getting people into that discussion, whether, it's a mooring handler or someone holding octopus release or a commercial fisherman or just general citizen, I'm looking for that plan.
Yeah, getting a recreational scalloper on there, yeah. A recreational shell fisherman.
And I see the success of the harbor plan implementation group, the diversity of people that were there. And I think that merits that same kind of focus. It's a lot. It would take away a lot of this board's time to focus on that.
That's what I think. Thanks, Jeff. Ken?
Perhaps we could move forward by having the board representative reach out to the Shellfish Association, the Harbor Master's Office, Natural Resources, whatever groups might be appropriate, maybe Nantucket Moorings or the Yacht Club or whoever we think might be appropriate on the committee, and come up with a slate of names and organizations, and go to the selectmen and say, can you appoint these people to this committee? There are some people that are interested in.
Okay. Even though he hasn't been appointed yet.
Well,
Yeah.
it's hypothetical.
Right. How do you feel about that, Fritz?
Like I say, I'm the one who's proposing we do something, so I guess I would, if I were to say I'm reluctant to do it, then I wouldn't. So I'm willing to do it. And what perhaps, and let me just make a suggestion. Perhaps what we could do would be simply now or at the next meeting, however you want to do it, vote to indicate that it is a priority of the board to see that the shellfish plan, management plan is implemented as soon as possible, or as expeditiously as possible, and that to however you want to say it, appoint, delegate, whatever, to to one representative on this committee to come forth to make, I don't know, basically to do what Ken said. So it wouldn't be doing it as a representative of that committee, but doing it as a representative of this committee to meet with people and try to see what we can do to move it forward.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Drake,
how many people are they, how many people?
5 is what I understand from Jeff. Correct?
Happy to send something out. The Shellfish Association. See if anybody interested.
When's your next meeting? End of this month?
Well, our annual meeting is the 20th. Our regular meeting is the 20th of July.
And you don't, do you get the sense that there's any interest from the membership at all? I mean, this is a plan that is benefiting a lot of your members, I would think.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've lost some momentum in this whole area because of Peter Horse's meeting. And we just want to sort of, as our conduit for information from this board and from other things. And so I don't think we haven't really focused on this, to be honest. And I'm happy to see if anybody might have any interest.
Your annual meeting is the 20th, and is that at the Admiralty Club? Would you mind if I came out there and just got up and said a few words, or is that all? Would it carry more weight if you said it? Okay, think about that. So we have this motion on the floor for Fritz to be our representative at the committee, should it ever get formed. If we don't have any more discussion, I'll take out all those in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Fritz. Okay, what do you guys want to do with the rest of it? I think we should take it to the next meeting, and between now and then prioritize things that we want to go first. I don't think we should just pick things out of the blue. And the question is, do you want to have a workshop meeting or make it a regular meeting? I think by then you'd have it all prioritized, and then we could go from there. Quiet bunch today. Andy?
I think a workshop meeting would be very helpful next time around. But while we're here now, and we've got Chief Pittman here, I'm wondering through you if I may ask a question.
Sure.
Whereas Mr. Kuntz brought up the dredging that I had mentioned at our last meeting, and where we know that Pulpus Harbor has been postponed till next year. I'm wondering if that, and I also have read that Mr. Franzuto is actually coming up with like a master plan for dredging. And so when the dredge does end up here, is there time between now and then to possibly, if it's found to be feasible and worth doing, to add to their duties while they're here for dredging?
Probably not.
No.
Because the permitting process takes 2 years to do. And the Pulpus Harbor deal, for instance, we've gone through we went through a different permitting process this time. We're going through what's called a maintenance permit, which will allow us to come back every so often and take more out to maintain it without having to go through the entire permitting process again. That sand that come out of there can only go to certain places. It has, I don't know all the technical stuff. Jeff probably has a better grip on this than I do. But it's, they look at the sand, like coarse sand can go some places. The clay sand or whatever can go other places and stuff in this. And right now, that sand that we're going to take out of Pulpus Harbor, only about a third of it is eligible beach nourishment out in that area. But what held that project up is the property owners signing easements to be able to put the sand on their beach. We can't go beyond the scope of that permit, but what we've done is now we have capital funding that went through the last town meeting that we get access to as of July 1st, that we're going to put out an RFP to do a survey, an engineering survey of the entire area, the harbor, Nantucket Harbor, different places that we're experiencing the shoaling and things, to come up with a plan, to have an engineer develop a schedule and a plan, and give us the alternatives that we can do, what we can do with the sand. There's some thought that we can partially fund or maybe even entirely fund an annual ongoing dredging plan by selling some of the sand. We already know we have to keep some for beach nourishment. We know that in different areas. But like I said, you can't take sand in Nantucket and nourish a beach in Cotuí, for instance, unless it's the same makeup. But the engineers can tell us all that. They can tell us where we can use the sand we take out of a certain area. That will all be part of the plan. So we're going to put that RFP out. We're working on developing the scope of it now, and that will go out here after July 1st. And then we expect to see probably an engineer or somebody working on that in the fall to develop that plan. And then what we anticipate, hopefully, that part of that process will also be the permitting process. They'll come up with a plan and they'll start the permitting for the whole project, so that we can just schedule the Barnstable dredge or whichever dredge. I think we've actually decided we're going to use a different dredge for the Pulpus thing, because we're going to do the Pulpus dredge and the Town Pier dredging at the same time. And I think we're going to use a commercial dredger to do those. And they're both permitted now. But anyway, then we'll be able to start scheduling probably the Barnstable dredge every year to come in and do the next section on the plan. Some of the sand you can't even use, like some of it in the inner harbor area. They've already told us, they said, like what they're taking out of the Town Pier, you can't use it anywhere except it's got to go bye-bye, because it's got contaminants and all kinds of other stuff in it.
Mr. Chairman,
Andy.
I just want to thank the chief for that, because it sounds like it's a ball in motion that's way beyond us, so basically it eliminates something off of our list, and this is a ball that's in motion that's being taken care of by others. Thank you.
Well, if you have other questions on your list, in fact, I mean, we have everybody here. We have the team here. If anyone else has questions for our staff, so that we can get these questions answered if and when we have another workshop, hopefully this month, then we will know. We'll know what we need to know to prioritize those. And you have several harbor related. You have the boat access. No.
Gray water.
Yeah.
Boat ramp. The seagulls on the Town Pier and the Boat Basin Pier. If I may, through you, I'd love to ask Sheila if there may be some type of another plan implemented for that time of year that the seagulls like to hang out on the Town Pier and basically destroy it to the point where you have to. Did you end up pressure washing and?
No, it ended up clearing up. We had a couple good
With some
rains
heavy
going
rain.
last bit. Yeah, Christina and I talked about it, and we're trying to figure out different things we can put on there. But we're definitely coming up with something for that. The gray water thing is that's going alive and well. That's going with as we are handing out these cards that the Shellfish Association gave us as a discussion. The problem with the gray water is you can't make people retrofit their boats. So all boats that are being built after a certain date have to have tanks and storage for them. But we do check to make sure that their gray water discharges are closed when they come into the harbor, just like we check to make sure that their black water sell the licenses. Signage is gonna be a difficult thing because the neighbors don't like the signs up and HTC and all the rest of that. But, we've already come up with what we're gonna do for waivers safe. They're gonna be handed out when people buy licenses, recreational licenses.
If I may,
Andy.
quick question, Sheila. So when I'm walking the pier in the summertime and I see a discharge, it may just be a bilge pump. It's not.
It's not a bilge pump, it's an air conditioner. 99% of what you see. There's bilge pumps, they don't, unless they're sinking, but they're, what's going over the side is 99%
No shower water
generator.
in the marina.
No.
Thank you.
We've had people on us since I came to Nantucket, like 15 years ago. This has been a hot topic, and I've known Christina that long, and it's something that her and I talk about probably once a month. She's regular, pretty much. She's got going with gray water, what we do with gray water, all that stuff. It's a very hot topic, and I know we've talked to the Coast Guard, we've talked to everybody, and you can't make people retrofit their boats. It's just too
No.
expensive. Well, she doesn't allow shower, water, washing machines, any of that. All those bigger boats, they just put it right into their black water tank, and when they get a pump, they pump that up.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have any more questions for them, Andy, on any of your items? This is actually good because we can tick off the things that we don't need to deal with and get down to a real list. Not that any of the ideas aren't real, but,
If I may then, to either Chief or Sheila, you had mentioned mats before, using mats for getting boats out of the water if a storm's coming. Is there anything new, anything that you could add to moving forward with actually finding another location for a ramp?
There's nothing I can add right now.
Yeah, okay. Just didn't know if,
No, I know, but I know that that's what we're gonna do, we're getting the ramp repaired, because we're gonna put a moving mat down, so the developers can still get in and out. So that'll be for children's, but as far as another location, well, that's another, topic that I know that people have been thinking about for years. I know some of the developers do use, Opus Harbor, but you gotta have no shit when you just go on a trailer on Opus Harbor.
yes, I agree. Is there any chance of taking a look at 46 Easton Street, which has been for sale over a year? It's an outrageous price, but maybe that's why it's still for sale. Beautiful spot to have the same children's beach type of setup. Deep water.
I'm guessing probably from our experience with what's going on in Federal Landing right now, that'd probably be a very difficult situation. The land bank had Federal Landing.
Yes.
They floated a plan to make it a pier, and it is running into some fierce opposition with some big money to getting that done. But I think it's going to be years before we see that. And I'm guessing we will see the same thing on Easton Street. If not, the challenge is getting it permitted to be able to do it. Because we looked at part of, when we had the engineer come in to do the permitting for the town pier dredging, we had him go down to Washington Street Extension to look and see if that would be a possibility. And he came back and thought that, I guess there must be some eelgrass or something down there. He said it would cost more than buying all the boats to build, mitigate all the eelgrass to build a ramp through there. And plus it's pretty shallow and would require a lot of dredging. So if you're talking about some pretty expensive projects that, I think what we need, I think a lot of people know we would like to have a second alternative in town. And I think every opportunity we get with these engineers doing these things, we mention it, see if there's anything we could do. And we've so far run into nothing but, yeah, most people wouldn't do that, or if you tried to do that, you'd pay more than it'd be worth. So we're trying to balance it, but it is something we look for. It would be nice to have a second in-town ramp sometime.
If I may quickly, if Sheila could add to it, the ramp's gonna be redone again, Children's Beach ramp?
Yes. To fix the pitch.
Okay.
It wasn't built properly. It
And,
makes it difficult low tide for some places.
yes.
They're gonna pick up the concrete slabs, they're gonna dig it out and put them in at a steeper pitch.
Wow. Wow. It's keeping it the same width, though.
Yep, so you can get three trucks down at a time.
And there was something else they were gonna do, wasn't there some wheel catcher or something, some place, there was something they were gonna fix, I can't
Right,
remember what it
yeah,
was.
down at the end, there's a stop, they're gonna remove the stop. Because we've had several guys, but they're not gonna have to do it anymore, because the pitch is gonna be different. When they were struggling before, they would jump in the stop, and then the trailer would get hung up on the other side of the stop.
The diver said there's actually a couple axles down.
You all set, Andy?
Yes, thank you.
Ken?
Just following up on the possible alternative ramps, have you looked at doing something down at Jetties?
Oh, I know.
I don't think that would be a lot of beach because
Yeah,
a lot of
they're
ledging.
kind of dredging.
Because it's right off of the shore there, there's a huge shoal.
And there's so much activity there. I think people flip.
So it sounds to me like it's basically, it's a game of musical chairs that'll make people just decide that they're not going to launch or they're not going to whatever, and eventually it'll get to, it's a self-limiting thing. There's only so much space and so much time to be able to,
I think we're there.
yeah.
But she puts them up at the bull basin if they can't get out. She gives a good rate, storm rate for that.
Yeah.
And I tell as many people as I can, because typically right before a big storm, it's not like we get surprised by it. We have some nice days. We have two really, really good ramps over in Nantucket. Nantucket
Yeah.
is very well marked,
Yeah.
so people should not be afraid to go in there and pull their boats there. And so we do encourage that to happen as well.
And doesn't, I guess I just never go there, but doesn't Great Harbor have a ramp that no?
At travel.
They just have the travel lift, yeah. Okay.
She mentioned Nantucket ramp. We got funding also to rebuild that. Is that S Street?
Extra bulkhead.
So that'll be a project that'll start probably if it starts this year, it'll be in the fall.
But nobody wants to use Nantucket unless they have their boat out there because it's a long haul around. And
Long,
but I would think that
That's a nightmare.
if I didn't care about one thing, I could buy this boat, this little boat, but I'd have to trailer it. But I would think that I'd feel so lucky to have a boat out here that I wouldn't care about the wait for the mooring. I'd trailer it and launch it and be happy that I could do it, and I'd go all the way up to Nantucket to do it. So does that mean that the boating populace is just spoiled having a mooring or having, say, 10 years ago, always being able to launch your boat and park your trailer and no?
What the majority of the traffic is the people that pay the boatyards.
No.
If you go down there pre-storm, it's all boatyard trucks, and they're pulling for people that A, aren't here, B, don't know how to put their boat on a trailer, C, pay these people to take care of their boats. And the reason it's okay with the boat handlers is because they know how to do it. They flash them in and flash them out. They
Right.
go free wide and it's quick and easy. It's chaotic, but it's controlled chaos.
Plus, we let them park, when they're pulling them like that, we'll let them park them over on Easton, unhitched and unattended until they get several of them out so they can pull them. I mean, we work with the boatyard.
Yeah.
And honestly, I can't remember in my tenure that we've had an incident where people, other than the fact they weren't paying attention and didn't go to get their boat. I don't know of anybody that actually couldn't get their boat out before the storm and the gates were closed.
It's just that people are panicking and they get their boat out, but in anticipation of doing it, they're freaking out.
Somebody will pull up, and there'll be a line of 4 trucks, and they gotta wait, and they get upset about that.
But we encourage them to panic,
Yeah.
because when they get left in the water, we end up with like 40, 50 boats on the beach.
Right.
So, we encourage the panic.
It's not enough that we live in.
It's amazing how fast all that harbor empties out, it really is, given the number of boats that are in.
It's like
And
I said,
if-
it's difficult, but it's not undoable. They put a cop down there usually, and they keep everybody moving, and it works. It works fine.
But if for some reason you couldn't get your boat out, couldn't you just stick it up in the west side of Pulpus Harbor, which seems pretty sheltered?
A lot of boats do that. A lot of boats go right into Pulpus.
Yeah.
A lot of boats go hide behind the Great Harbor Yacht Club. They put them on the flats over there.
Right.
A lot of boats go to the boat basin. And like I said, she's super good about it. She lets them in and gives them all really protected spots. It ends up working out.
Andy?
If I may change the subject, if you'll allow me to back up a little bit, I would have liked to have, I didn't think to ask Sheila earlier during her report. May I ask
Yes,
a
you may.
question about liveaboards? How's it, you mentioned the last meeting that you were getting a lot of requests and
Right. And we're taking care of them one by one. Some of the ones that we had a couple issues with last year, we've worked with this year, and they've worked very cooperatively with us. And so we have that going, because they know that we're looking, and we had a couple people out there that were doing some things that we caught right on to that we're told, it's gonna be not Nantucket Field, so because they don't have a mooring, and they don't have a pump-out plan, and they don't have some of the other things. So that boat that we found out that about immediately got moved back into the boat basin within 4 hours. We had it towed into the boat basin, and he's looking for another harbor.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just thank Sheila and remind the new members of the board that she's busy with a lot of riffraff, it seems, during the summertime. And personally, I feel, that's a lot to watch out for, and we appreciate you doing the best that you can with the limited resources that you have. Thanks.
And I appreciate you guys sticking around and listening to us and let us, go through our lists and ask questions. We appreciate you guys being here because we know you're here after hours and you could be elsewhere. So, does anyone have any other questions for our staff? Well, it would be my recommendation we do a workshop at the next meeting on the 21st and come prepared to take these lists that I've given you and bring your priorities of what we should cover and how should we attack them going through the year, as opposed to just picking them and talking about them forever tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be off island, but I will send you an email communication with what my priorities would be.
Okay.
And if I could prevail upon Mr. Gullickson to act as acting secretary at that next meeting.
He doesn't have to do that. I'll do it. I'll do a recording on my phone, and
Okay.
it'll be fine. It'll be long, but it'll be fine.
Okay.
No problem. I mean, doing the minutes is actually a bit therapeutic because you get to really hear what people are saying and hear the meeting, and I did it my first year, and I learned a lot. Anyway, So are we in agreement? Do we want to do a workshop at the next meeting, the 21st? Yes. I see nodding heads. So we won't take a vote. We're just all set. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree, we should.
Okay.
So it's going to be excluded to the public?
That's right. I'll notice it, of course. That doesn't mean you can't come, Colin. Yeah. I mean, are you running for SHAB or you just love going to meetings?
You're never gonna know anything unless you come to the meeting.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Okay. No new business. Public questions and comment?
Here's your chance.
Recap and meetings, recap and items for next meeting. Well, don't really have anything I have to address between now and then, but okay. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And just a reminder, the next meeting is the 21st, and then July 5th is the next meeting after that.